What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aidan, and welcome back to another video. Today we've got a Chicago Bulls and Cleveland Cavaliers game reaction, and I think it's important to say from the very beginning that a loss like this should not be overreacted to. At the end of the day, there were some really key important factors as to why we lose a game like this, but nevertheless, you also have to give credit to the Cleveland Cavaliers for coming out and beating a team that they should be beating and beating what's put in front of them. You can't control who comes into the games and who doesn't play and all these situations. Obviously, the Chicago Bulls came in short-staffed, half of our roster pretty much out. Our 16th man will be coming in against the Miami Heat and Stanley Johnson. So all that being said, we were at a big disadvantage tonight, and the Cleveland Cavaliers, to their credit, did what they were supposed to do, and we'll talk a little bit about it in this video. I won't keep this video too long for the sake of many people. I don't think many people want to really talk about this game too much, but before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the game today against the Cleveland Cavaliers, which we did lose 115-92. The size advantage, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's the biggest key to the game today. You had Mobley, Larry Markkinen, and you had Jared Allen. That's a massive starting five for the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Chicago Bulls came into this game playing, I believe, in the small forward position. It would have been Derrick Jones Jr. as the power forward. The small forward would have been Io, and the center would have been Nikola Vucevic. So a much smaller lineup in every sense of the word for the Chicago Bulls, and they definitely used that to their advantage in today's game. But it's not just that, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, that's the biggest factor, and that's something that we all knew coming into this game. Even with our best lineup in the team, we still have a big size disadvantage over the Cleveland Cavaliers. We saw it in the preseason. We versed them in the preseason. The first game in the preseason, we blew them out. That obviously was their first game as well. And in the third game of our preseason, that was a really big factor as to why that game was so close. We played small ball, and we did that very well with our healthy team. They had a big lineup in their team, and they kept up with the Chicago Bulls. Unfortunately, we don't have that lineup that we can go and compete with the Cleveland Cavaliers, go and trade buckets, go and get some easy opportunities in the paint. We don't have someone like DeMar DeRozan that can slow the tempo down and make an easy bucket from the mid-range and the isolation. We don't have players like Javonte Green that can run out in transition. We don't have Kobe White that's a bench scorer. And all of that situation, and it just worked. It didn't work out in our favor today. Obviously, looking at the game, our offense was extremely poor today, and I'm talking more specifically about our bench scoring and just our shooting percentage in total. Again, we finished this game on 92 points, which again, when the Cleveland Cavaliers or any team in the NBA keeps you to 90 points, more often than not, you will lose the game. The Chicago Bulls only scored 92 in this game, and therefore, as per usual, you would lose that game, and the Chicago Bulls lost it. But the bench scoring, in my opinion, was really, really bad. And again, I have to keep expressing it, and I don't want to, but I have to keep expressing it. It's not our best lineup out there. Half of our roster is out due to health and safety protocols and injuries, and we have to keep on understanding that, and that's why it's not going to be pressing the panic button. It's not why many people are going to look at this as a danger loss or a loss that will carry on into the majority of the season. It's not going to be like that, but our bench scoring had 0 points in the fourth quarter. We came into that fourth quarter, which means we played all 3 quarters of that game with 0 bench points. And I believe the bench, there was a couple of bench players that played. Devon Dotson played today. Tony Bradley played today. Alize Johnson played today. So there should have been a little bit more, in my opinion, if we were going to have any sort of say in the game. I think the bench needed to step up a little bit more. Obviously, these guys have not played for a while. Even Troy Brown Jr. also was off the bench, but I thought he had a decent game today, to be fair. But a lot of the like when it comes to the bench, a lot of them haven't played. A lot of them only playing garbage time minutes. Some of them play in the G League. Some of them just don't play at all. And they had to come in and just try to be ready, and they just weren't ready to play. They weren't ready to play. They weren't ready to compete. And their bench dominated our bench, and their starters obviously dominated our starters. Again, we needed more help in terms of the offense as well. Zach LaVine can't do everything. Lonzo Ball can't do everything. When you have the game that Nikola Vucevic had at the center position today, awful shooting night for him. Just couldn't get anything going. There was that one point where he had a post up over Darius Garland and he couldn't get it to go. Those are the frustrating nights with Nikola Vucevic that you never want to see. And it's just frustrating for the Chicago Bulls, because if we had anywhere near the level of the Nikola Vucevic we could have seen today with easy post hook opportunities, this. He went into the post big time today. That's what we've all been asking him to do, but he just couldn't finish. That's the big issue. And if he did finish today, we might have had a chance to compete in this game. That would have given Zach LaVine a lot more space to operate in the mid-range and the three-point line. That gives Lonzo Ball a little bit more time to try and facilitate, find open players, knowing that Vucevic might get doubled or triple teamed in the paint. One thing about Cleveland is they're a really good defensive team. So once they get your rhythm stopped, Zach LaVine didn't have a rhythm going in the second half. Lonzo Ball pretty much had a solid game overall, but in terms of shooting, it was 3-pointers and he had one layup. Not really variety in the shot. And it's just really frustrating to see. But at the end of the day, we have to move forward from this. We can't keep on... We can't dwell on a loss like this. We can't look at this loss and say this is going to define our season. I think many of the NBA fans, Cleveland fans, Bulls fans know our situation right now. Obviously, our situation does suck, but this is what we have to deal with. This is the thing that we're going to have to see going forward. We will have a very similar situation against Miami. We will probably have a very similar situation in the next game against the Detroit Pistons. These are the things that we just have to pick ourselves up from and move on. Also, our turnovers were pretty poor today, especially in the first half. That's really got Cleveland going as well. And that's all I could really say about that situation. The turnover issues was big for the Chicago Bulls today. Defensively, again, the size, the post-ups, all of that really helped Cleveland. You got Larry Marketing that is getting open dunks in the paint. You got Mobley that just simply could not miss. It looked like every single time he was in the post against Io, Derrick Jones Jr., even Nikola Vucevic, Zach LaVine, it didn't matter. He was shooting over them, and he had a big game for them. He's one of their biggest impact players, in my opinion. I'm really impressed by his season so far. And then, again, defensively, I just don't think we were connected enough. And it goes to show that we need to have a little bit more time on the defensive end. Again, I don't think our defense was terrible. They did score 115, but the defensive end was a big worry for the Chicago Bulls, especially when you don't shoot as well as you do. You have to stay connected defensively. You have to just keep on trying to play the best defense that you can, because defense, more often than not, no matter who's in the roster, will keep you in the games. We saw amazing defense against the Denver Nuggets. We didn't see the best defense here. I think the size issues was a big factor in that. Looking at the must improve, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give it to Nikola Vucevic. I think that's a very easy one. I think if we get anywhere near the Nikola Vucevic that we could have got, the high standard Nikola Vucevic, the one that is shooting at a very high level, that can play a little bit of defense, I think we could have a chance to win the game. He took a lot of shots, especially in the second and third quarters. He was posting up Jared Allen. He was taking mid-ranges. He was taking threes. He was very, very frustrated. You can clearly see that in his face, in his demeanor, and his attitude. Throwing the ball onto the glass, just kicking the ball, throwing it into the backboard and whatnot. It's just a frustrating night for Nikola Vucevic, and I don't really want to dwell too much on this because I understand our situation, and there's no point in making things as big as they need to be. It's not a big deal that we lost this game, in my opinion, because we all know our situation. But for me, he's the must improve. I don't really feel like giving a player of the game in this sort of situation. I think a lot of these players had poor games today, which is very understandable. I don't feel the need to give a player of the game in this circumstance. What I want to see the Bulls do now is pick themselves up, continue to work hard, and just provide a little bit more effort in the next game. Again, we may lose the next game. We may win the next game. It doesn't really... I guess you just can't tell with this team and how we're going to approach the game, considering so many players are out. But all I want to see now is effort. I want to see Bulls work really hard, whether we are trailing the game, whether we're getting blown out, or whether we're winning the game and we're dominating the game, whatever the case may be. All I can ask from the Bulls now, until these players come back, until DeMar comes back, until Javonte comes back, until Kobe comes back, until Caruso comes back, until Matt Thomas comes back, until all of our players return, all I want to see is 100% effort, and I want to see energy in the game. Whatever else happens, I'll live with it. If we lose the game, I'll live with it. If we win the game, of course, I'll be happy with that. I just want to see effort now, and we'll see what happens. The Bulls' record is 17-9. I believe right now we are still second in the Eastern Conference. The Milwaukee Bucks are hot on our tails, ladies and gentlemen. They could have an opportunity in their next game to maybe take over the Chicago Bulls. We have a couple of days off until our next game. And at the moment, the Brooklyn Nets are losing to the Houston Rockets. Houston Rockets are on a 6-game win streak, I believe. So they're coming into their season flying. I believe their win against us gave them all the momentum in the world to go and beat other teams. But we just have to stay focused. We have to keep on going. We have to keep our eyes set on the goals and the targets for the Chicago Bulls and just hope that our players can come back ready to go, ready to fire, because we do have a couple of games that could be seen as winnable if we had our roster. But right now we don't, and that's something that we do need to look at. Our next game is against the Miami Heat. It's going to be an interesting game, this one. Obviously, it's going to be in Miami's home turf. Again, you could see a very similar situation to what Cleveland did, and Miami could beat us up with half of our roster not there. I want to see effort. That's all I can really ask for. And whatever the result is, I'll have to live with it. I think most of us will have to live with it. I'm sure most Bulls fans are not stressed and are not anxious or are not upset with a loss like this, because we know the situation that we're in. It's a situation that many teams have been in before us. Many teams will be in after us. We can't control it. We can't see. We can't predict. We can't tell the NBA to put players in and put players out when they're not eligible to play. Every team goes through it. So I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for ourselves. I congratulate Cleveland on doing what they're supposed to do, and that's all they can do. I don't want anybody going and disrespecting Cleveland for beating us the way that they did and saying that half our roster wasn't there. Because at the end of the day, we've done that to other teams, and it's the same situation. You beat what's put in front of you. Cleveland can't control whether we play injured or not, or we have players in health and safety protocols or not. They're there for their season. They have to win the game, and we just have to accept the loss and move on to the Miami Heat, where hopefully we can pick things up, pick the energy up, and make it a close and competitive game against one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully the Chicago Bulls could do well. With that being said, have a wonderful and safe day, Bulls Nation. Thank you for watching the video. I'm sure many of us will be looking forward to when our players return. I think we all really miss these players. Let's just see what happens in the next game. Take care.